Hello and welcome to the CMC Right Stuff. Today I'm delighted to be speaking to Liz Pichon. My name is Jasmine Richards. I'm a children's author, I'm a producer, and I'm the founder of a company called StoryMix, which centres black and brown children in stories full of joy. Liz, our lovely Liz here today, is an award-winning author who has sold over 11 million copies of the Tom Gates series worldwide, which is just an extraordinary figure. We're delighted to talk to her today. We're going to talk a bit about her journey as an author and then on to how her wonderful series, the Tom Gates series, has become a TV show.
Hi, I'm Tom Gates. Welcome to my brilliant show. Series 2! It's even cooler this time. School is great.
I love llamas! Back to work, everyone.
Mostly.
For Tom Gates in particular, how did that happen? And did it arrive fully formed, or, what was that process like?
No, and I think it's really important to say that because I think people, do think sometimes. Sometimes people do just get an idea. It does happen like that. But for me, I originally imagined that Tom Gates was going to be it was going to be a picture book because that's what I'd done. And I wanted to make it like a scrapbook because I used to make scrapbooks when I was younger and cut things out, comics, loved comics and put things into books. And by that time, I didn't start doing children's books until I was in my late 30s, sort of early 40s. I got young children and, their teachers would write little notes in their books and things. And I remember doing that as well. So the first Tom Gates was a scrapbook, was a real collection of all different things, all about me. Not me personally, but that's what it was called. And it had things about his teachers, silly little cut-out things stuck in. And I gave it to my agent, because I'd managed to get an agent by that time. And my agent, Caroline Walsh, who I've been with for over 24 years, she looked after a couple of illustrators that I really liked. So I remember going to see her, and she took me on as a client, I think primarily because I had lots of greeting card work. So I already had work coming in. So it gave me time to sort of develop my picture books. So, wasn't putting lots of pressure to actually get lots of books done because I already had a steady stream of work coming in. And I showed it to her and she took it to publishers who really loved the idea, but they didn't think there was enough of a story. So Caroline showed it to publishers, they liked it, and then I went away basically and rewrote it about 2 or 3 times. And eventually I wrote it in an exercise book. So that's my original Tom Gates, it's slightly ripped at the back there. So I imagined that Tom, and by this time I'd kind of worked on the voice, I'd got a much clearer idea of who the character is. I'd done lots of drawings, I'd worked out sort of biogs and things. So I just imagined that he was writing in this exercise book, and I'd started to sort of add in little bits of font and, and I knew that I wanted him, he was going to be in a band, and he was just doing lots of doodles and, that was part of the story. And it was much more about, he'd been on a camping holiday called Camping Sucks, and everything had gone wrong. And it was how, and I was trying to use the pages, he had lots of excuses for why he didn't have his homework in. And so, he'd throw water over the page, oh, whoops, sorry, sir, that's what happened. And also, right at the very end, I've got, the dog ate my homework, that page there.
So Liz, I don't know if you know this, but at the point you were sending that out to publishers, I was a junior editor at OUP, and one of the things that I've actually kept from that role, because I loved it so much, was your pitch.
Oh my God.
So this is, is this about 12 years old? Yeah.
So that was the original one, and then I photocopied it and made it more into a book, like Dog's Got My Homework. So you've kept that. Wow, that's amazing.
Because for me, and this is for any creative out there to sort of remember, the person who's making the buying decision, whether that's books or TV, gets so much content, so much story across their desk. So to get something like this was a delight, and it did stand out. And I know you had lots of publishers interested, and OUP didn't get this title. Scholastic did. No, it's okay. But how many publishers did you have have bidding for this?
Well, bearing in mind, I mean, I'd done some picture books, and one picture book I did quite well, which really got me thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I'd done one which had won a Smarties Prize. And,
As you do.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. It really gave me confidence, because up until then I'd been a bit like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm not a real writer. What am I doing here? But that gave me enough confidence to actually sort of keep at it and to really think, okay, this is what I want to do. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to really, pay attention and try and work hard at it. And so we sent that off, and within 2 weeks I got 7 offers from 7 different publishers. And that's never happened to me before, since. It's quite unusual. But I think what had happened, I didn't know that Wimpy Kid was out there. I'd never actually seen it. But I think actually that had been doing incredibly well, and publishers were very much looking for something in a similar vein that had, it was, I suppose in a way, it was a kind of diary-ish, book format. But we're very different. We're very different types of characters and books, and I put lots of drawings and doodles and how to make things. So basically the book that I wanted to make was the book that I knew I would have loved at that age, and that's what I did. As soon as I made that decision, I'm just going to really focus and try and do a book that I think I would have loved, and put everything in it that when I was a kid I would have loved, that's when things really changed for me. And I wasn't being led, I wasn't trying to please somebody else. I was just doing that thing that I thought, okay, this is what I would have loved.
I'm getting a sense then there's an evolution as we move through the books, but talk to me then how books has evolved into a TV series. And I'm sure we'll have lots of people watching this who are really keen to pitch their ideas to broadcasters and streamers and production companies. How did that happen for you?
Well, I think, the event side of it was a big thing. I mean, I started sort of, I'd make my own little videos and stuff, or I'd get a friend to do them, just so that I had something to show in when I went and did a school event. And very simple, just little graphics, little storytelling. But I'd also, like I said, music was very much a part of Tom Gates is in a band. So my husband, who I met at the record label, he was a producer and engineer. I've always put lyrics in the books as well, like poems and things. So I asked him, I said, let's turn some of these lyrics into real songs, And the great thing about that was we didn't have to please anybody. We could just do whatever music that we wanted to. So we've got a song called The School Dinner Blues, which has got lots of children shouting out, "Chips, what do we want? We want chips." I then decided to get a band and think, wouldn't it be great if we have a band who would come and do events as well? So we did a little bit of that. And I think all of that really helped to make Tom Gates that sort of bigger. We had music, we had... and Scholastic were great we did a music book as well, so children could actually learn how to play some of the songs. So it was fleshing out all these different areas, and I had T-shirts that kids could colour in. So when it came to production companies, we were talking to people about it, and it was interesting for me, like, hearing what kind of ideas they had. And I'd already done a stage production, so I'd sort of co-written the script with a guy called Neil Foster, who does all the Horrible Histories, and Mark had done all the music for the stage production. So it was interesting seeing how people were approaching us and what kind of ideas they had. And there's a lady called Arabella Croft who ran Black Camel. She's a producer, so she works in films predominantly. So she came to one of my events up in Scotland and was in the queue with her kids and sort of said to me, are the rights still available? And I said, yes, but you better hurry up, because we were talking to lots of people. So she contacted somebody that she knew who had an animation company called Ken Anderson, and they kind of came together. And so as a pairing, they started to talk to us about acquiring the rights for the TV. And what I liked about them is that they were a small company, and they were very keen to let me be involved in the process. And so that's how it started. But they had ideas about I wanted it to be an animation, and there was talk about it being a live action as well. But I thought actually animation is really the thing that Tom needed, and it would give it that longevity. It was just too risky, I think, just to have your first thing as everything on that one child. And it felt like animation was the way to go. So that's what I was very keen to do, and I kind of pushed for that. And so I signed with them, And we started sort of looking at trying to develop a little animation pilot. But, it's really difficult. I know it's very difficult to sort of get money together and that whole process. So I actually went back to Ken and suggested, knowing all the things that I knew about what children were loving, about, the drawing and how they were making their own drawings as well, and how, I make things. And so I sort of pitched to Ken the idea of doing a magazine show based on all the programmes that I loved when I was a kid. So I used to love Vision On. I loved, the Banana Splits, which had music and animation. And, something like The Simpsons started off as a very small part of the Tracy Ullman show. And, Morph started off as a small part of Vision On. And I just thought, actually, if Tom Gates could be a smaller part of a show which was very creative, which had, drawings. And so I sort of said, we could do Make It, we could draw it, sing it. And we had all those elements as well. So Mark and I had already got songs, we'd already got, in the back of the books, there's all these things, how to make things and drawings. So it just seemed like a really good thing to do. So I think they went and percolated the idea and sort of came back to me at one point. I think they talked to other broadcasters about the idea. And then Ken said, I've got a meeting with somebody he knew at Sky. This is Lucy, who's commissioning editor there at Sky. And I said, okay, this is great. Now, what does she want to do? And he said, she just wants to meet you. I was like, okay. So I said, I'm not going, I literally was thinking, I'm not going into a meeting with nothing. So I just brought, I don't know how these meetings are supposed to be, what you're supposed to do. I just did what I thought I wanted to let people know about. If I was going to make a Tom Gates TV show, this is what I would want in it. And I've got this, it's only small. This was an A3 big sheet. So I just wrote down, this is how I do all my, anytime I'm working on a book or anything, I always sort of start in the middle. So I started off just writing Tom Gates Club and just put every single idea I had. Like, you've got there, let's sing it, learn it, do it, read it, draw it, make it. So I'd already got those sort of ideas about that. And I just put all of those down. And I brought, the books, I brought, those shoes that I'd drawn on. Sneakers! Just everything, children's drawings, all the music that we'd done, and just said, this could be, pitch this kind of idea for a show, and they seemed to like it. So we had maybe, from the meetings that I was involved in, we had about 2 or 3 meetings. So we met again at Caroline, my agent's. Got a director on board who came. It was like his first meeting, and we met out in the corridor, and we're like, this seems to be going well. So I don't know. My experience was they really got it. They were looking again. I think they were looking for something that had an element of makes and drawings and things, because that was very popular for younger children. And so what we were doing was something for older children. I really wanted the TV show to work on lots of different levels, to have that humour as well, so that, that's something that we work really hard on as a team. We're always trying to sort of add in those little extra layers so that if parents see it, they're not sort of rolling their eyes and going, oh God, they actually can recognise. I mean, that's the whole thing that gives it longevity, I think. I don't do very much about technology. I'm always trying to think about things that I know kids can make, very simple, just out of bits of paper. That they recognise themselves in the characters, they recognise those relationships, siblings, grumpy teenagers. So there's never, ever very big plot lines. It's always about those small details. And when I was talking to the head writer on it is a guy called Ben Ward. And obviously he's got incredible pedigree working on Horrible Histories, but he really delved into the books and probably knows more about them than I do. And he's been able to bring his vast experience as well about actually taking the ideas and the stories and not waffling around really. In books you tend to sort of go like that, but he's really good about sort of getting to the nub of the story, and it's been brilliant. So we've been sort of co-writing the series. And
does it go sort of backwards and forwards? How does the actual process of co-writing work?
We'll do a sort of a writing session. It's usually just me, and at the moment, because we've just done 2 series, I'm sure it'll pool out a bit, but because we had to do things quite quickly, it's been me and George and the producer, Sue Ann, who works at Wild Child Animation, who do all the animation. And Sue-Ann's just a marvel. I don't know, she's been juggling, because for them, making the series, because we've got all these little bits of the series, it's like doing all these different TV shows, really. You know, we've got the animation, we've got the makes, we've got my bits with the drawings, and she oversees everything in a very calm and collected way. So we'll do a writing session. And I would usually come up with, I never turn up to meetings without anything. I always have idea. I always find it quite difficult to do that, like to be in a meeting and just to be thinking about things. I like to have something that you talk about or that you've actually put forward. Even if it's not totally right, at least you've got a starting point. So I will always do lots of drawings and storyboards. So when we first started, I put together, literally I did all these little, I did one for every episode. So I kind of storyboarded out like episode 1, 2, 3, and just wrote all these different ideas of things that could be in the show. Like, for instance, this one here, like that's a book week one. So we've got book week, we've got, Tom dressing up in a bad costume. He's got scales all that drop off after a while. And then I've added in, what kind of make could we do? Maybe we could make a little mini book or something. And then the drawing, what could that be? So I'm just sketching out. So I did one of those for like every single episode. So every time we'd meet, I'd sort of show them what my ideas would be, what we could do, what the story could be, and I think that was really helpful. So
it must have been a dream for them, to be honest. That's so. It's creative and it's organised and visually delicious to look at. I mean, that's a great starting point.
Looking around, see what else I can show you.
What else can you show? Can you think of any other top tips for the creatives watching this who are interested in pitching their TV show to production companies and broadcasters? What would your top tip be?
It's difficult for me to sort of advise like other people in this way, because I've just done it so much on instinct and so much, like really just going in with visual. Anything I do, I always try and sort of bring a visual to it. Try, a mock-up or something that you can look at or something you can talk about. I mean, some people are great at telling stories and they can sort of grab your attention. I always find it, if I've got something to show somebody, that even creative people, sometimes can't visualise things. I mean, that happened right at the very beginning, when the very first book came out, which I've got a copy of here. So this is literally sort of an early copy. From looking at these and the way it's drawn and everything, you wouldn't think that all the things that we've done has come from this. And we actually had people say that, like, where's all the stories going to come from and where? And so even though I knew that, we could put these designs and we could do makes and do all the rest of it, it's like sometimes you just have to do it. You have to show it. You have to put something on, you actually have to visualise it in some way, because people don't know things by osmosis.
Well, this has been incredible, and so many pearls of wisdom, and just love your energy. Thank you, Liz, for sharing your journey and your story.
Well, I said no one's having more fun than me. Honestly, if you told my 9-10-year-old self that I would be making a living from, drawing on things, drawing on, stones and making badges and doing storyboards and things, then I would never have believed it. So it's really, I know it's really tough out there to get ideas out, but it's just, if you just keep at it, keep thinking about those fun ideas, the ones that you would have loved as a kid. People quite often say, do you write for children? And I don't write for children. I'm writing for myself as a child.
Yes.
Yes. And I think that's really important, in the best sort of Pixar tradition, isn't it? Just
yes, exactly right.
Yeah, things that make adults laugh will make kids laugh as well, and that's what we're trying to do.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Liz. And I need to tell you lovely people as well that there's other sessions. There's other sessions as part of the Children's Media Conference where you can learn more about pitching ideas and how to create and all of that good stuff. And that just leaves it for me to say thank you for joining us. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
For sharing your story.
Oh, it's been lovely. Lovely to catch up with you as well.